I hope everyone is staying healthy and safe. For those folks that don't know me, my name is Jim Fogler. I am the president of the Florida Press Association. Welcome and thank you for joining our VIP Roundtable discussion on public notice. This VIP Roundtable is brought to you by and will be presented by our new Diamond Elite sponsor, Column. And let me say how excited we are to be able to continue to provide our FPA members a robust statewide public notice site with our new tech partners, Column. Small reminder, this session is being recorded. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat feature and we'll get to as many as we can throughout the session. We will also leave some time at the end for Q&A. Before I introduce a few members of Column, Sam and I would love to bring everyone up to speed on what we've been up to and as we get ready for Jan 1 when the new law goes into effect. First off, after the bill passed, we went into action and created two task force. One is a tech task team and the other one is focused on marketing and communications. A lot of you on the call have team members that join our weekly calls, and with their help, much has been accomplished. So I want to thank everybody on the call that have team members on there, and some of our team members are actually on the call. So thank you. Most of the focus has been loading your guns, our members, with the understanding of the new bill, with the creation of talk tracks for internal use with bill references. We've created an infographic talk track that is a shorter version that we want folks to send out to government officials, county clerks, and we also created an 11-page Q&A document for internal use as well. And that continues to grow when Sam and I hear questions about the new bill. So folks, I'm gonna, in the chat feature, if you haven't seen these materials, I'm gonna send you a link to where these public notice talk tracks are for download so you guys can have for your teams if you haven't downloaded them yet. We also completed 6 customizable newsletters for each newspaper to make your own, becoming the public notice experts in your local markets. We are asking everyone to do this because it's so important to get out in front of this and become the public notice experts to your county clerks. And then last, but certainly not least, we've been creating these public notice best practices after hearing from you, and we're sharing them via the e-bulletin. So we'll continue to do that, continue to check our e-bulletin, and that's where those will appear. We do have plans to continue our public notice day to educate young freshman legislators, and we'll create a few new campaigns, one being a testimonial, and then one being on the importance of notices being noticed and our alert feature. So we are not going to take our foot off the gas, people. We are going to continue to promote why public notice needs to be in newspapers. And along the way, we're going to educate our young freshman legislators. So important. And then, gang, on the tech side, we're in the process of modernizing our site even further with Column, which you'll hear more about in a few seconds. And then we're in the process of creating 3 robust dashboards for the bill sponsor that will tie into our new site, which will show him the changing public notice playing field with web only. It's also going to show total traffic and total notices. One ask, gang, I have this acronym I use all the time. It's NWBAGT. It means now would be a good time. So if you haven't looked at your site in a while, please take a look at your site and make sure your site has the local notices on them, meaning when you go to your site and that navigation feature, public notice, drives people directly to your local public notices site. We're finding that folks are leapfrogging from that navigation to our aggregated site. That's a no-no. We need those local listings to be on your site. It also needs to have a search feature. So when you're there at your local site, you need to have a search feature on there. And if you don't have a search feature, that's where we're asking you to put the widget that will give folks a search feature and will drive folks back to the Florida Public Notice site. And then if you do have your own search feature, then we're asking folks to put the widget that lets folks know that they can get email alerts, and that will then bring them to the statewide site, which will then ensure that we're driving folks also to the statewide site. Sam, did I miss anything at this point?
Oh, that's great, Jim. Thanks.
Okay. All right, cool. Listen, I don't want to steal any of Column's thunder on what's next on the tech front. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you our new partners, Jake Seaton and Kevin King from Column. So Kevin, Jake, take it away.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And just real quick, Jim, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can.
All righty. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Kevin King. I am the head of partnerships here at Column. We could not be more excited to be working with FPA and all of you in the membership. Before I sort of dive into a lot of great information we want to share with folks, I will actually pass it to our founder and CEO, Jake, just to share a little bit of background on our company before we jump in.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. Hey, everyone. Can you hear me okay? And
Yep.
My name is Jake Seaton. I'm the founder and CEO of Column. We're a public benefit technology company that I started out of my family's newspaper business, which has about 10 publications throughout the American Midwest. Our flagship is Manhattan, Kansas, which we purchased in 1915, and have papers in Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Colorado. And so a couple years ago, we were working out of the extra conference room of my dad's paper and trying to help our staffer that had to work back and forth every day with government agencies and law firms to administer this process, to try to make their job easier, and try to help the association at a state level administer their efforts to represent the industry to the Kansas legislature. And so Column has kind of been born out of that. At this point, we're working with a good number of state press associations, but we're really focused on Florida. And this is a really special moment for us because we've just moved our headquarters to Miami, where I am now sitting and living. And Florida is, as you know, at this kind of inflection point in the history of public notice. And so we're really honored to be here working with all of you to try to help bring something new into the world for all the publishers in Florida. So very excited to get started here. The team behind Column has worked together previously to build a tech company. I met Kevin as well as Huck, who's also on the call, working for a company called Quorum that by happenstance I'm wearing the shirt from right now. But we as a team have worked together in this intersection of media and government affairs together before. And so Column for us is kind of the continuation of the careers that we have been building together. So it's been really, really fun to grow the company and get to work with awesome folks like Jim and all of you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jake. And with that, I'm going to sort of transition here into the content and programming that is going to be the focus of the work we'll do together. So like I said, part of the work we do at Column can really be distilled into sort of two categories. And I think it's important to kind of call this out up here at the top. If you've heard about Column before, you might have heard about it just as a thing that some associations are working with, but you also might have just heard about it as a tool that your publication can use to manage part of your public notice product. And that's in large part because we do have really two distinct products that have defined the work we've done as a company to date. The beginning of this conversation, the first half, is really going to be focused, of course, on the statewide public notice websites that we provide to state associations and their members. We're going to kind of talk through what a typical transition looks like for the Column team. We're really excited for Florida to now be, I think, the 12th or 13th state. I can announce a new state here in a couple of weeks in our partner program. So we've really kind of battle tested what it looks like to transition and work with members on these statewide sites. But then the second thing that I'll talk just briefly about towards the end of our presentation, in large part because I think it could be really relevant to really meeting some of the compliance standards that Jim just talked about with those display sites, is our full enterprise publisher platform that we've developed to really help solve the problems that Jake mentioned as part of our founding story about how do we help save newspaper staff time that are involved in managing the orders coming into your publication on a daily basis. And how can you deliver some modern customer experience tools to the folks that need to place those notices, either through some self-serve template, some easy billing tools, some digital affidavits, and kind of a variety of features that we can dig into. But we're going to start, of course, with the statewide public notice website and how Column works with associations and its members on these transitions. So To date, we are really, really proud of the sites we've been able to develop for a variety of states across the country at this point. And I'll give a big kudos, of course, to FPA, who just even in the past year prior to the legislative package was able to make some pretty exciting enhancements and modernizations to the site, which gives us an awesome foundation to build on. We've been able to work with other states where there maybe wasn't as much infrastructure for building some new tools. And so to work with Florida, who's already at a great starting point to really just elevate this to the next level is a great opportunity. And that's what we're gonna do. So the site that we're gonna redesign here with FPA in the coming weeks and work with you all on uploading notices to will of course include a lot of the things we've come to expect as digital citizens using online tools, things like mobile-friendly compatibility, the fact that anybody, a citizen in Florida can engage with notice content on their mobile phones will be a key part of the functionality for the site. We're gonna have comprehensive date, location, and publication filters. This is sort of a standard practice nowadays with searchable sites like the ones that we've designed. We're gonna have notice type categories, which I think there have been elements of in the past on some of these sites, but one that we've really tried to take to the next level. Our system utilizes some pretty exciting machine learning and artificial intelligence and vocabulary that goes well beyond my knowledge to do some really exciting things about processing notices as they're fed in and then categorizing those for the audience members and for the users that come to this site. You might not know the exact keyword you're looking for, but you do know you care about foreclosures happening in this county. And so to create that notice type filtering is something we're going to be excited to provide for Florida citizens. And then of course, email and texting alerts. So emailing alerts will become a core functionality of this site. We also know that there are new standards that are being set in Florida about the ability to, of course, distribute notices via email. And we've got the tools and functionality to make that happen. The next level of that is, of course, SMS or texting alerts for notices, which is functionality we have developed. In Florida will be really the first state to deploy and kind of pioneer the use of that functionality, which is going to be a great step forward in the distribution. And then one of the things that I believe Annie, our head of product, is here on the call that I just want to give a shout out to as far as the standards with which we design products at Column is really about meeting those thresholds around things like ADA compliance, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and making sure that any site that is powered by Column reaches the standard threshold for most screen readers that are out there on the internet for folks with certain disabilities. Color and font and weight and display are all things that our design team likes to geek out about and think about. And that's something that comes standard with our sites, which when you think about the many ways that a state association can have a more competitive site than any solution a government might hack together, this is those cherries on top, right? About really pushing and raising the bar of what becomes the standard. And then lots more to come. And I've made the open invitation to Jim and FPA and really you all as members to really build with us about what needs to be achieved with these tools and with this site. If there's a dream feature that's been talked about in some pie in the sky conversations, this is kind of the moment for us to think about how we develop that together and really how do we become some technological muscle for things that the industry has always wanted on public notice. So those a little recap on the details about what to expect with the design and functionality of the site. Let's talk about how this transition is going to work. When we met with Florida and the FPA staff about a month ago, sort of in our kickoff meeting, we kind of coalesced around really a two-phase approach to making sure that we coordinate this transition effectively. And the good news for you all is phase one is going to feel pretty status quo for the most part, and it's going to really focus on the immediate migration of the current site design to the new design. And of course, the key role that you all will play as members is the transition of your upload feeds, which many of you have in the past several years been, of course, following the instructions provided by FPA on the ways in which you can upload to the site. And Column is really going to honor and inherit most of that process, which is really that we'll work with any member on two options for getting their notices to the site in the short term. Number one will be a standard XML feed, which I believe many members have taken the steps towards setting up and configuring. You might recall a pretty comprehensive instruction guide that was sent out by FPA about this process. That's going to be really the same in working with us. The only difference that will happen is you're just going to have a new file location that you send those notices to. So we're not going to request any change to your structure of the feed or any of the mechanics there. What we'll simply provide you is a column account, and inside that account will be credential information, like an example you can see on the left side of the screen about where the file location is, what your username, password, port number is, and all that good stuff. But then the second option, which some members do, of course, participate in, is a web form in which you can sort of manually upload the notices that your publication is publishing on a daily, weekly basis. And so that's a pretty straightforward drag and drop, plug and play tool where you log into your account, you select the date that you're uploading for, or multiple dates. You upload either a bulk text file, PDF files. If you just had one or two notices, you can cut and paste the content in that text box that you see there on the right side of the screen, and get those notices submitted and loaded into the site. So that's how we expect to work with members in the short term here about getting everybody transitioned to the new design site and make sure that the content is still there and up and running. We have a couple of built-in administrative tools that come with our site. This is really about accountability and making sure that folks are participating in the site on a routine basis. So that includes things like upload reminder emails, where you can expect on a weekly cadence to get a notification from the system reminding you, of course, to make sure you've uploaded your notices for the day or for the week. And then also a little bit of some administrative tools for your staff to address any changes or errors that might occur in an upload process. So maybe you're using that manual web form and you realize you accidentally uploaded the wrong day of notices. Instead of having to triage a series of emails and ticketing or support request, we have a live chat box in the bottom right-hand corner, and we have built-in tools for your staff to actually just go in and make some of those changes that they know need to be made. So that can really help reduce that time in which either errors or data quality or bugs are sitting around on the site. We really want to make sure you all feel empowered with the tools that you're using.
Kevin,
so those
Kevin, I'll give you a second to take a breath, but this will be a feature that we'll use as folks are going to be on a quarterly basis needing to provide information to the site as far as web traffic and CDC information based on your audits and stuff, correct?
Correct. And you're actually jumping right here into phase 2, which is exactly what you just alluded to here about some of the additional functionality. So Jake mentioned earlier how excited our company is to be working in Florida. And I think this is a great reflection of why we're excited, which is that obviously the laws have changed and some new standards have been set about verification and reporting. That's going to pull the industry forward in a lot of ways, but also mean that the tools and technology to do this well need to exist. And if Column can be the partner to associations to build those tools, then I think that's really a great relationship to build on. And so that's what we're going to do in phase 2 here. Phase 1 focused on the immediate migration of the site and the design. But then phase 2 is going to include the rollout of some of these new standards and tools this quarter to make sure that by the time we approach the new year, we're going to be in a position with the association to help start reporting on the information that needs to be with the legislature and the bill sponsor. So there's a couple of things that will be included here, and you're going to be able to see this a little more as we head into November when we deploy these features for all members. That includes the quarterly survey, which you can see a basic screenshot of here on the left. That also includes some dashboard and reporting that we're going to be designing. And Annie's probably rolling her eyes a little bit that I stole a very early spec of a screenshot here because there's a lot more iterations I know she wants to do here. But we're going to be working with FPA on designing some compelling dashboards that will be a part of the reporting on the site. And so this is going to require members' participation. This will be something new. This isn't going to be something that is just the status quo of uploading notices. And so you're going to be able to, of course, get pretty routine email notifications every day or week that passes in which you haven't filled out the quarterly survey. And you'll also be prompted with this information whenever you log into your Column account to administer your uploads. I'll go ahead and pause here, Jim, if you wanted to add any other context while we have this slide pulled up about kind of the importance of phase 2 here.
No, but you hit the nail on the head. I mean, all eyes are going to be on Florida on, the new law that was passed, and these dashboards that we're going to create in phase 2 are going to be so important to us because, in the spirit of being transparent with the bill sponsor, these dashboards will, they're going to be out in the front so everybody can see them, including, our members and the bill sponsor or any government official for that point. So that's why it's going to be important for all of us to be on the same page, everybody to be uploading on a quarterly basis and just staying in front of it, because God knows we do not want to be at that podium, year 2 and defending, public notice, because I believe we really have some good runway right now based on the new language and feeling good, really good at where we sit right now, but we just need to do it right. So.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, I do want to just kind of blueprint for folks what the next couple months will look like as we head into the end of the year and how we hit some of the goals that we have in mind. Jim might laugh at how simple this timeline looks compared to the rather comprehensive one I've shared in our task force meetings. But I didn't want to overwhelm folks here with all the nitty gritty. So I broke it into the 3 biggest buckets that I could imagine. The first really starts today, more earnest and tomorrow in the coming weeks, which is the outreach we need to do with each of you on the call to provide you with your Column account and updated information on where to be uploading your notices as part of the redesigned site. So that includes making sure if you have an XML feed that we provide you with new file location information. And if you use the web form, that you're familiar with how to log into the new site and upload those notices. Right now, we've pegged the week of October 18th as the soft launch and target date for getting the redesigned site live. The work we do really in the next week, getting members in a position to start uploading notices, will probably determine what that official flip date looks like in the week of the 18th. But we're pretty confident that we'll regardless be in a good position that week to make the transition. We typically like to do that towards the nighttime, of course, as traffic dies down on the web, and make a smooth transition to keep our engineers up late at night is always a fun thing to do, and make sure the site is quality checked and looking good. And then the third bucket really just gets into how we deliver on phase 2, which we just alluded to, which is that our product team over the next month is going to take those basic screenshots I showed you and actually deploy that into the tool to start requiring participation from you all on filling out that first survey this quarter. And then also starting to see some of the dashboards mature with data and information that FPA can be using in conversation with the bill sponsor as we head towards the new year.
Hey, Kevin, on that note, just once again, to just reinforce what you just said, folks, we're not going to wait till Jan 1. Once this thing's up and live, we're going to ask folks to play in the sandbox, test these dashboards, go in, upload stuff. That's why we have the tech team in place, because we want folks to really engage, and we're inviting folks to, get in there and use the site. Break the site. We want it broken. We want to fix everything that needs to be fixed by Jan 1. And that also goes to folks, your outreach, right? I mentioned all these marketing and communication vehicles that we're providing you as members. No one else has access to that right now. Just our members. Take advantage of that while you can and use them. Be the public notice experts. Get out into the field. Build those relationships back with the county clerks if you don't have them now. Make them happen now. Now is the time to do that. Don't wait till Jan 1. Okay.
Absolutely. We certainly pride ourselves here at Column on being a product-focused company, and product is iterative, and it requires feedback and it requires engagement. So for us to kind of be in this period of the next 3 months before we start the new year to get this right is going to require that engagement from everybody on this call. So. What I want to now do briefly is actually just hit a bit of a transition point to refer back to part of what I framed at the beginning of this conversation, which is that at Column, we do far more than just statewide public notice websites for associations. And in fact, part of our core work as a company in the past year has focused on the adoption really across the country of our enterprise public notice platform. So forgive me for a moment, but I will go into just a little detail about why I think these tools could be something that folks on this call take a pretty serious look at, and that we're certainly excited, should you be interested, to have some more engaged conversations about how you could use our platform. There's also a pretty compelling tie-in here to reaching some of the compliance standards that, of course, are going to be a part of the new dynamic here in Florida. So really, there's a couple components to what make up our enterprise platform. First and foremost, we've delivered publishers some pretty compelling workflow tools to help save time and a little bit of friction that goes on in the process internally around notice processing and order entry. And so that includes, dashboards to be able to track orders as they're fed into your publication from your customers. Compelling tools like digital affidavit templates that we can help auto-generate as part of our system, some pretty simplified billing and invoicing functionality, some great pagination tools that allow you to do some bulk exporting, as well as some integration work that we've been able to achieve with a few other software companies here in the space. And then pretty routine automated notifications that really keep your team and operation ticking along to be able to deliver that compelling customer experience that should come with public and legal notice. And the second part really hits on that customer experience, that we provide publishers a set of tools that they serve to their governments and the law firms and the private parties that need to place notices with your publications through some pretty basic self-serve functionality. The ability to do some notice templating that asks a few questions, and from there can help auto-generate the content that someone that needs to change their name can use to place that notice with your publication. We help deliver some upfront pricing and proofing tools to really sort of give that sense of control in some ways to the customer, that they feel they have a little transparency into the process and working with your publication. Some auto scheduling features that really make sure that folks are getting the notice orders in on time and in accordance with your publication schedule that you offer. I mentioned earlier a digital affidavit system that publishers can use, and on the other side, customers can benefit from being able to store and save those digital copies of their affidavits all in one place. And then certainly to simplify some of the payment process, where we've been able to see through deploying our tools into markets, relationships that were typically mail by check have been able to move online and on a very basic level improve some cash flow for folks and be able to get in payments for notices a little quicker. But the last thing I'll just highlight here is the ability to utilize some of our compliant custom notice search sites. And so I know Jim mentioned earlier at the call that part of making sure that members here go back and look at your sites to make sure you've got the localized display of your publications notices is actually one of the core features that we offer in our enterprise platform. And I've picked on the Miami Herald here on the screen, who does have a version of our tools live on their site for the placement of notices, as well as the searching of notices that have been published in their publication. Up there at the top of that banner, you can also see just a small notification that says looking for notices across Florida. Click here and can drop folks, of course, into the statewide site. I do want to call out that we will be developing some of the standard widgets that folks have come to expect with the current FPA site, but that to do some of the more advanced layout and design things that we've done here with folks like Miami or some of our larger enterprise partners like the Washington Post will be for folks that utilize that enterprise platform that we've developed. And so if you're interested in any of those things, if any of it sounded compelling, reach out to us and we'd be happy to sort of go a little deeper to learn about what sort of needs your publication has, whether that's bringing on new staff that's going to be responsible for public notice, and this is a good moment to train them up on some new tools. If there's a transition moment with your publications, also a good time. Or if you're just looking to kind of enhance that experience that you're providing to customers. We'd be happy to talk and engage on how we can work together. So info@column.us. And I will flip it back here, at least to this slide for now, and open up for questions, certainly for our team, but also for FPA.
So currently, Kevin, I see nothing in the chat, but I'm gonna let folks, if they want, they can open up their mic and ask a question direct, or feel free to use the chat. I'll ask a question. I'll ask a question to get things rolling. So Kevin, if I decided to go with your enterprise product, how long would that take for, you know, I'm a smaller paper, 10,000 circulation. How long would that take to get implemented? Would I be able to meet the Jan 1 deadline if I were to go with an enterprise product?
Yes, certainly be able to meet the Jan 1 deadline. We typically see a few buckets of implementation timelines. For smaller pubs, that can be 4 to 6 weeks. For larger publications, that might be 8 to 10. The variable really is around some of the existing technology your staff uses. Is there integration work that maybe we've already done or that we might need to chart a path on? And then really what your comfort level is about starting to roll it out with your customers. You know, you could decide that, hey, I just want to start with private party notices. And that's going to be kind of goal 1 that we hit. And then over time, we'll phase in government and we'll phase in law firms. So it can be a bit choose your own adventure, but 4 to 6 weeks, 8 to 10, depending on size, can kind of tend to be what that looks like.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, this is Jeremy Gates with the Orlando Sentinel and Sun Sentinel. Just got a quick question in regards to the search capability that Jim had mentioned earlier. And I'm sure that many publications have similar needs. When do we anticipate the new widget with the search capability being available?
Yeah, so we're going to tie that widget functionality pretty closely here to this soft launch around the 18th. We certainly don't want too much time to go on post launch and not have that widget functionality. There of course exists the out of the box tools today, but we expect around the same time here of this launch in October 18th that inside your column account will be, you know, snippets of code that you can use as a widget to drop into your site.
Excellent. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Jeremy. While we're waiting for another question, just a big shout out to Sandy Kemp and her team at Sandpaper Marketing. They've been a really big help with all of our communications and all of our creative and everything on the marketing communication side. They've been a great partner, and just you know, just a hats off to Sandy and her team for all their support. Thank you.
Kevin, I have a quick question. So when you were showing us the example of the Miami and the way that you had the search on the left side of the screen, and I see that that's powered by Column, is that basically using the information, it's retrieving it from what's in the state site, or that really is searchable on their own site just for their legal notices, and that they'd have to go to the top of the page if they wanted the state information?
Yeah, they'd have to go to the top there, that click here. This is localized for Miami Herald. I think if you go to their site and click their legals or classified section, you'll get to this site. And this is because they're also using, you see in the bottom right hand corner, there's that place notice button, which sends folks into this process to be able to upload their content and actually place an order with the Herald.
Okay, thank you.
So Cindy, really good question. So what Kevin just showed you is they've created an actual self-serve model. So folks can click that button there by using their enterprise product, and they're able to create their own public notice. And then Kevin, where to go? Would it go directly to the newspaper? How's that functionality?
Yeah, so on this end, right, you've got the screenshot here is that customer view as they upload their content or use a template to fill it out, or a Word document or a PDF that they've submitted. And then on the other side, that funnels into a dashboard that you see here for your staff to start processing those orders, to confirm it, to create the invoices, to create the affidavits, and sort of triage the entire transaction process here in this one system. Then the other benefit, and I do apologize for bearing the lead here, is that for those customers that use the full enterprise platform, you don't need to upload notices to your statewide site, because in this nice instance, we're powering the statewide site for Florida. And so we actually are just feeding those into the back end as they reach publication date to the statewide site for you. So there's not an extra XML feed you need to set up, and certainly not a manual upload process. It can kind of all flow from there.
Okay, so then just to follow up, it's my understanding that as long as they're searchable on the state site, we don't have to have it searchable on our individual site. Is that correct? We have to have the notice on our site, is we correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, it just needs to have some search functionality, but you can use our site, getting into it by the use of the widget to do
Excellent.
the
Okay.
search. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Sam.
Good question. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Good question. All right, what else is burning on everybody's minds? I know there's a lot, we've shared a lot in a short period of time, and there's a lot to the new bill. So, and I know we've had a couple of these sessions already, and this is more of a deep dive on the tech side of the world, but would love to hear from you.
Jim, did you say that will there be a period of time where we'll have the old site and the new parallel, or it's just going to be a flip of the switch?
That's a good question. Kevin, what is our plan on that front?
Yeah, so that's going to be part of the messaging outreach here. We're going to focus really on a flip of the switch, and don't expect to really drag along a parallel site. You know, we've done both transitions that way. In some states, we've done a parallel, and what we found was actually harder to get members that were still stuck on that parallel over to the new one versus flip a switch. You might have, you know, a bit of an abrupt period where members are going to have to jump to it on that day or the day following if they haven't made the switch. So our plan is to do a flip switch, and you'll be advised on the day in which that needs to change. One of the things we're working with Coin, the past provider here of the site, is going to be on an archive transition. So we've already done one transition of the archive. And when we complete the transition process, we will backfill that with a second transfer to make sure no notice content was lost there between the switch.
Will there be the opportunity to upload notices currently that are on the current site to a test site?
Yes, so well, we will be standing up a staging site here with FPA, and in particular, we're going to share it with the tech task force. So we're happy to kind of extend that to folks who want to just get started with the process of practicing the upload. So
Great.
Yeah, we can work within that.
Yeah, hey Jeff, great question. And since you're on the tech task force, you'll be so plugged into that. You'll definitely going to help us break this thing.
Okay, thank you.
But Kevin's smiling because he knows that we're not.
Just your use of the word break is so aggressive. So you're gonna try to break it. But no, that's good.
Evan, I hate to ask, I have one more question for you, please. So when I'm looking at the public notices that we were just reviewing, how are you going to handle the display ads when if somebody, it would not really be self-service then if we did choose the enterprise site, because like a lot of times they're sending us the map or the zoning, or these are to run an ROP, it can't be near the other ads. So they're all the different types of, elements that we have to consider. How will that factor in here?
Yeah, so we support the submission of display ads here, and we both work on that both in a pricing backend, but also we do a templating process with each of our enterprise partners to figure out what is your sort of standard templated layout for your page. How can our system recognize things like a PDF upload and maintain the integrity and layout of a display? So happy to I would share my screen right now to do a full demo, but that might not be the most fair to everybody.
Thank you.
Is there a reason we're cutting it so close for 2 weeks?
We like to move at a good tempo here. So I think the joke I typically make with Jim when he says, how soon can we do this? I like to say tomorrow. But if folks find, and in particular, we're going to learn pretty quickly as we reach out to members where we're getting response and where we're not, that we need to sort of shift some things, we'll do so, and we'll make sure to communicate that. I think the goal here is to be ambitious with a timeline so that we have more time for the site to be live and be functional before Jim and FPA have to start engaging, of course, with the legislature more and the bill sponsor. So our deference was, of course, to tempo here, but we're going to learn a lot here in the next week as far as how much we can get members engaged on setting up their transition.
Yeah.
Oh, and I brought that up because the previous question was actually a very good question in that, your basic liner public notice ads, that's probably fairly straightforward, but there are a lot of types of ads that have maps and rely on PDFs. Those files might be located on a database elsewhere. So there's a lot of other types of notices that could get complicated, especially on the government side.
And that's part of the benefit with this first archive transition we did. So we now have the first dump of notices that have been uploaded to the site in the past, I think, 18 months, including some of those PDF ones. So our dev team is working actively and understanding what are the different types of notice formats that have come through the system to make sure that we're going to be in a good position to handle those.
I'm going to take break, Adam. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to take break, Adam, over my vocabulary, but I will say we're going to learn a lot in the next few weeks, and we're going to continue to just enhance and just get it right, because we have to get it right. And that's why we're so far, I believe, ahead of the curve, because by Jan 1, when we're really just telling our story, we just need to be lock and loaded and everything working properly.
No, I meant by cutting it close, having our notices that have been on the FPA site for all these years go to a new site in 2 weeks from today.
Yep. I mean, we're not, just for everyone's edification, we're not going to dismantle the coin site like immediately. It's still going to live somewhere. It's just we're going to flip a switch and transition over. I don't know if Kevin mentioned this out of the gate, but he's got 13 other press associations under his belt, and they've learned a lot over the last last year and a half, and feeling pretty confident based on where we sit today.
Jim, I have a question for Kevin.
Sure, Foy.
Many of us on the call today don't actually do the uploads. Those are done by our production staff. When you say outreach, how is that going to work? Will there be a Zoom presentation for our staff that actually do the uploading and review the new process?
Yeah, great question. Really appreciate that question, actually. So two things. First, in working with Coin, we've been able to kind of transition the user list of folks that are currently logging in. And so we do have a pretty good handle, at least, on which email address at your company is associated with the upload process. So part of our—
the dispensary?
Oh, I think
I muted her. You're good.
Okay. So part of this outreach will be directly to those folks that we know are active users already of the site. And that's going to be email outreach as well as phone call if we can't get a hold of folks. But then what we'll provide are both recorded video trainings on how to upload as well as written guides on how to upload. If folks are running into trouble, we are always happy to do Zoom calls. We're available in a live chat box in the bottom right corner. We've got a pretty great support staff, but there will be both video and written upload materials for your production staff on how to use this tool. And again, pretty status quo to some of the functionality they're used to.
Thank you.
Good question, Foy. Thank you.
Jim, or actually I have a question for Kevin, just switching gears a little bit on your enterprise product. I'll see a smile now, almost. I'm just curious, and if it's complicated, you don't have to get into all the details. Just what kind of, at a high level, what is the process for producing pages for the actual newspaper?
Yeah, so you are going to start to wade into some product territories that I might not be as effective at communicating. But when we onboard a new publisher, we have a whole discovery call with usually the production and design folks to understand, what system are you currently used to do your layout. And for the most part, we've observed that to be InDesign. Nowadays, we have worked with quite a few publishers that use things like Quark. But with something like InDesign, what we do is we actually take the template that you all utilize and configure that into our system, so that we can export design files that are already packaged in your InDesign template out of Column that can be retrieved by your production and design folks. So that includes everything from font and sizing and layout. So we can actually take the liner notices in particular that are being processed through Column and flow them into your InDesign template to then export that file for production staff. We've also done a little more deeper integration work, which I will keep unnecessarily vague to not overpromise anything here on this call about the extent of that, but that we've worked with things like Brainworks and Naviga and Account Scout and some of the other systems out there that folks use to get the design files out of our system and into others.
Thank you.
All right. I don't see any more questions in the chat feature. Anybody else? Anything else burning on your mind? Sam, did we miss anything on the, do we want to share anything on the bill language side that folks just need to pay attention to that I might have missed early out?
No, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Hey gang, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. One is next week on Thursday, we're gonna have another session. It will be in the morning and you'll start seeing promotions for it. It is gonna be the same exact session we just had because we just wanna make sure that we're reaching folks at a different time, a different day to make sure that, everyone's getting notified on kind of where we're going and where we're at. But I will tell you, the conversation's not gonna stop here. We're gonna have monthly roundtable discussions on public notice and where we're at checkpoint wise. So there'll be another session probably mid-October, and then a session in November, and a session probably in December, just dotting I's, crossing T's, sharing everything that we've done to date. So I just wanted to give everybody a heads up on that. Karen mentioned our conference. We're real excited about that. So that's happening August 4th, 5th. At the Sawgrass Marriott. Please make a note of that. Would love to see everybody there. I want to give a special thank you again to Jake and Kevin. We're so excited about our partnership. I thought they did a really nice job sharing everything what they shared today. So thank you again to Column. I hope you found value in our session. Like I said, we're planning additional roundtables in the near future. Stay tuned. We'll promote those in our e-bulletin as well as direct emails. Thank you again for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim.
Be
Thank
safe.
you.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kevin.